welcome to Read Becca. We're gonna jump right in because I have an awful lot to talk about today, and I am not feeling very like filming or talking. So first up, I don't think I hauled this previously, but this is a children's book, Out of Nowhere by Chris Naylor-Ballesteros. And on the back it says, "Our friends may change, but the love we feel for them remains the same." And that's not a very overt message of the book. This is very much a short, cute one. So it is a subtext though. So in this book we have a little beetle and a caterpillar, and they are the best of friends, and they have picnics together and watch the moon. And then one day the caterpillar doesn't show up, and so the beetle very bravely goes off and looks for their friend, and unfortunately doesn't find them. But their caterpillar friend shows up as a butterfly eventually, and they just pick right back up exactly where they left off, and nothing really changes. So I really liked that cute message. And there's him looking for his friend, and the butterfly coming back while the beetle is lonely having a picnic. And so it was very just cute. Liked it a lot. Then I think I have talked about this a couple times. So this was from my physical TBR, How to Be a Good Creature by Montgomery, and the illustrations are by Rebecca Green. And I would like this a ton. I think basically everything about it was kind of perfect for me. It talks very much about how animals have influenced her life or given her really self-awareness internally, and all the things she has learned from them. And so there are some really difficult points in this of her talking about the loss of her animal companions, and that is something that comes up throughout as these animals are aging and going through their lives much quicker than we do, obviously. Especially the octopus that she covers here. I did not even know that they only have around a 3-year lifespan. So yeah, some very sad stuff. And then she also does talk about thoughts of suicide. So warnings for that for sure. There's an entire chapter that really talks about them. But I'm not going to talk through all the animals, but it was just so beautiful how she talks through the things that they helped her learn. And I think particularly for me, my favorite chapter was Christopher Hogswood, her pig. And it was amazing to see her raise him from a runt and kind of form connection with her community through him, because everybody was so rallying in support of him and just loved him. And it's odd. It's odd to me. She talks about not really ever wanting kids, and then still at the same time has this reverence almost for blood family. And really what she learns through the chapter is how valuable found family can be, and that she forms this found family in her community through this pig and the connections that she makes about him. And that's something I'm child free, so I definitely have those same feelings of not really wanting a child and all that. But I think beyond that, like, I just don't relate to people that think that blood relation means anything. Like, I don't get it. So her still having that idea of there being some intrinsic value of blood relation was weird to me. Yeah, so that's just one of the many things that are social constructs that I don't get. So I enjoyed it so much, though. This book was an absolute 5-star. I think this is my second 5-star in the second half of the year, and just loved it. So I keep forgetting to talk about my my ebooks, and let me get a cover pulled up. I actually finished this one 2 weeks ago, not this week, because I forgot to talk about it. So The Dragon Banker by Scott Warren. I really enjoyed this. This is kind of a standard fantasy world with dragons and elves and whatnot. But this is really mundane fantasy, and I enjoyed it because of that so much, because it starts from the perspective of a banker, obviously, and he's hired by kind of a shadowy figure who is the agent for a dragon. And they're in this world that is going through kind of a major economic shift, that money is going from kind of commodity backed to paper money. And obviously for a dragon, that's kind of a problem when you're sitting on literal hordes of gold and gems. And I loved that aspect, that we're talking about a changing world, but it's not like war, it's the economy that's shifting, and that's very cool and not something I'd seen before. And then we, beyond that, have him struggling through problems in becoming the banker for this dragon that's trying to remain relevant in a changing economy. And so he sets up a trading company, and right in plain sight, the dragon's daughter trading company, very funny. But he actually explains like financial theories. So we go through like shorts and options and futures. You get those explained to you in this, which I thought was like super accessible and really well explained. And so it was neat to read about financial strategy and economics and trade through the lens of a fantasy world. So I thought this did that really, really well. And I think actually I had mentioned, while I'm pulling up the other one, I had mentioned that when I was reading this, I was hoping there were other books coming in this world, because this is standalone. And then it dropped the mention of the Sorcerous Crimes Division, which is a separate set of books that he has done, Scott Warren has done, and I do have one of those books. So that is like kind of like the City Watch from Terry Pratchett, where it's magical police basically. So then I finished that one up, and I have 2 arcs for October that are coming out, so I want to read those in September. So the one that I picked up first is My Letters to Conceição by Jorge Molina del Callejo. And I don't know anything about this author or this work, but it sounded kind of interesting. So the main character, it is fictional, is writing letters. So this is told in epistolary format. And they're writing letters to someone they love that has died. And so we are slowly uncovering about their relationship, and kind of, it seems like maybe they were estranged potentially. And he is in Manila, and she passed away in Mexico City, so he's actually sending letters and hoping they will be placed on her grave. And there's some sort of speculative element to this, so I'm wondering if there's going to be like a ghost or something, but I don't know what it is. So I'm liking it so far. I'm not very far in. I think I've only read 2 letters, so it should be an interesting one. So that's what I'm working on my ebook. And then on audio, I finished The Minor Third by Neil Patrick Harris, and that is book number 3 in the Magic Misfits series. And I can't talk about the plot too much because this is the 3rd book, but we follow a different character in each book, and this one follows Theo, who is a violinist, and he is kind of being pulled in 2 directions, where his family, who are all very musical, want him to kind of choose and have expectations of him spending time with them over his friends in the Magic Misfits. And on top of that, we have kind of the big bad was set up from the 1st book and is the major arc that's been flowing through the whole series. And this big bad really wants to undermine the friendship of the Magic Misfits. And the Magic Misfits are illusion magic type club, and they really form a found family. So we have, again, this theme of the value of blood relatives versus found family. Interesting. But in this particular novel, we had a kind of a different type of magic in each one. In this one, we have a spooky kind of ventriloquist dummy as the big thing that's going on in this novel. So really, really fun. I think I liked this one the least out of all of them, but it was still a really enjoyable book. These are great, fun books. And then on audio, in terms of the narration, I would say the narration was really good. I didn't like it as much as the previous one, though, because the second one was Christina Hendricks was the narrator, and she did such a good job. Like, she even narrated the parrot really, really goofy. It was great. So then, when I finished that one, I noticed immediately that Fugitive Telemetry, the 6th book or novella in the Murderbot series, was available, and so I didn't even try to look for anything else. And I started that one. It's kind of standing apart from the rest of the series. It's really a encapsulated murder mystery. So we have Murderbot solving a murder. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I don't know if I like the audio as much, just because I have such an established idea of the tone and like how I want to read Murderbot, and having somebody else do that is kind of jarring. So I'm working my way through that. Other stuff, back to print. So the stuff that I am progressing on in print, I'm doing really terribly at my TBR. I have not been reading very well, but from my TBR I have Deadlands Boneyard by Seanan McGuire, and I'm a third to a quarter of the way on this, and I'm really liking it. I was expecting it to be way more like pulpy and action-packed, but kind of it started pretty slow and really spent time on character building, and I'm just kind of getting into the spooky bits, so really liking this one. And then on my last book for the Women in Translation month, I have Little Dancer, age 14 by Camille and translated by Willard Wood. And I'm really enjoying this. This is kind of a topic that I enjoy, just in general, anything to do with ballet. But I had background of knowing a little bit about this, and had read last year Ballerina by Deidre Kelly, and that talks even more about, it focuses more on the general conditions that this girl would have been involved in, as a petite rat is what they were known as at the time. So it talks about general conditions and not so much about this specific girl. This book expands out quite a bit on the general conditions and the biography of this specific girl and how she kind of would have come to be involved with the Paris Opera Ballet, and then how and then biography of Degas specifically, and how he would have become connected with her. And so that just is really interesting to me. So this is pretty short. It's only about 150 pages. So it's packing in a ton of information, and it has flown by. I've been really finding this very readable. So great nonfiction. And the fact that it's translated, it does not read as translated at all. So really easy reading on this one. So I probably will work on that one a little bit more. I have half the day left today, but I'm probably not going to really pick up any full-length books today. I just am not feeling like reading very much, so short work has been really what's drawing me. So I am continuing on with Best of World SF, just a couple stories each week on that, and I keep putting it off because I think I have a long story left. I need to finish up volume 1 of the Hainish novels and stories. I should only have one short story left, and so I'm going to try to get to my 2 short stories in Best of World SF and my 1 story in the Hainish today or this weekend. And if I can do all of that, realistically next week, the couple days I have left of the month, I want to try and finish up At Night All Blood is Black by David Diop. And I have not started this one yet. So this is a really tiny novella length book. So I think this will fly by. I think most people have read it in one sitting that I've seen. So that's all that I'm reading. And I've mentioned a couple times, I'm really still on the struggle bus majorly with reading. I think this has been my worst month for TBR. I have not read 4 books from my TBR still. And that's not something I'm stressed about or care about at all. It's fine. But just in terms of like metrics, I've kept up with my TBR pretty well so far since I've been doing them, and I have not now this month. And then as far as like actual reading, really I think last week I mentioned I didn't read like 3 days. I think that was about what it was this week as well. So that time alone, I probably could have read at least 1 more book. So it's fine. It is what it is. I still read an absurd amount, much more than other people do, and so I'm not stressed about it at all. In fact, I think this month I am over 100 books read or 100 things read. So I am not stressed about it at all. So this morning I did a special project. I did a field trip. So that will be coming up. And then my TBR for September is coming early next week. And I'm going to do something really fun for that as well. I really whittled down my September TBR, so I'm going to keep it very light. There are several things that I do want to read, but are not specifically on that TBR. So I think library stuff, and I've got a couple of pre-orders, so like it's not on my TBR by any means, but I have a pre-order purchase for Under the Whispering Door that's coming out the 21st of September, and I will probably try to get to that soon, but not right away. And then I also have a library pre-order of Bewilderment by Richard Powers. I love his kind of mix of science and speculative, and this one is like speculative with an astrophysicist protagonist. It should be very interesting. And so that one is also coming the 21st, and I think I'm going to be in the first wave of people getting it. So I will definitely need to start that right away, because since I put it on hold, it has come up for a book prize, a pretty major one, and so there's going to be a line waiting for it, so I will only have 2 weeks to read it. So that will be late September, but you'll see my September TBR sometime early next week. So I think that's it for books. Other stuff that's been going on, it's still ridiculously hot here. We had 2 days that were at 100 degrees, and then we got some rain that kind of brought temperatures down. We had that massive temperature drop after the rain, and I'll throw in some footage of the crazy rain. But then immediately it was hot again like 2 hours later. So it's been ridiculously hot and miserable. So still dealing with that, and it doesn't feel like we're heading into fall at all. And kids went back to school this week. I can't remember if I talked about that, but I'm very frustrated and up in the air about that. It's difficult to hear about the kids all going back, and people are still fighting about mask mandates a lot and that kind of thing. And I'm quite sure that, it's been a couple of days since they went back for the most part, and we're going to start hearing about problems here in the next week, I'm sure. And things were already not great here. And then other than that, just looking into September, I have a 3-day weekend because of the holiday next weekend. So I know this weekend the UK has a bank holiday, so they're a long weekend. So that should make my work week a little quieter. Usually that does. I work for a global company, and that does affect us. So when there are holidays around the world, it quiets things down for us. But my work week this week was really horrible. It was really stressful. Just one problem that was not really anything I could deal with, other than to just keep telling people, yeah, this is not something I can do anything about. Here's where you need to go. And so it was hours and hours and hours of dealing with that. That was just stressful, and that really added to not wanting to pick up books at all. So instead of picking up books, I watched a lot of dumb TV again this week. I continued watching The Great Chocolate Showdown, which I'm really enjoying. I love seeing the techniques. I like that they do tutorials to start, instead of just kind of having the bakers go off and do their own thing. That is really nice, because you actually feel like you could go away and maybe try to do some of this stuff. But then I also started and got caught up with 9 Perfect Strangers, and I'm liking that much more than Big Little Lies, for sure. It's real weird and culty, and I am wondering if, or I'm concerned that it may go the Lost route, where it's weird, and if it keeps going, like, it was just the right level of weird, but if it keeps getting increasingly weird, it's not going to be able to loop back and get to some sort of coherence in the end. So I have a concern about that, but overall I really got sucked into that one. So I think that's it for watching stuff. For recommendations of other stuff that I have managed to actually get caught up on this week. So I have, first off, Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot did a really cool video kind of testing how Scribd makes titles unavailable. And I always knew that was a thing. I don't even have Scribd myself, but it's something that people talk about all the time. And it seems very nebulous. No one seems to know how that works. And he didn't really figure out how that works, but he kind of figured out some cool things. And so that was just a fun video kind of testing it out. Then the author, Rachel Emma Shaw, is also a scientist and has started a video series on science in world building that is super duper cool. So I just barely have started that, and there are actively like new videos coming out on that. So I'm going to link that down below for sure. And then this past week I saw a video with Kate Stevenson, who is a historian, and she just got a new book out called How to Slay a Dragon. It's really looking at fantasy, like pseudo-medieval fantasy world building from a historical perspective. And that sounds super interesting to me. It was a really great event with my local bookstore. So I will link that down below as well. So that, I think, is all the recommendations I have for now. I have, I think, 2 more things that I didn't get time to watch that I need to catch up on. So I will hopefully have some more recommendations next week. So I think that's everything for me. Otherwise, animal stuff. Gumbo had a great week, so I'm going to toss in some footage at the end here of Gumbo having her great week, where she was just so much friendlier and kind of let me interact with her a lot more than she normally does. So that was very exciting. I think it's hard when you have, kind of backing up, I try to be very respectful of my animal companions, that, they're little individuals who have their own feelings about what they want really done with their body and to not be manipulated. And, so I try to respect that and let them come to me when they want me to pick them up and that kind of stuff. So with a cat that you're trying to socialize, you have to push them outside of their comfort zone. And so I'm constantly in this place where I am towing that line of making her uncomfortable and going beyond what she really wants. And, there are strategies we could have gone with that are faster and more uncomfortable, where she might have been maybe normal, like maybe more socialized by now. But I think they would have been a lot more stressful for her. And so I opted for the kind of slower route because I have the time and I'm keeping her, and she's going to be here long term. And she's a very young cat, so she has the time to kind of ease into becoming comfortable here. And so yeah, it's always a balance trying to figure that out. So we are slowly getting there where, I'm having times where I don't feel like I'm actually pushing her outside her comfort zone when I'm kind of doing this in engagement with socialization with her. And that's really great. And that's kind of a new thing for her, where previously it was constantly like, okay, we're going to do this and it's going to stress you out for a little bit. And then we're going to, you're going to get to take a break. And so that's been very good. I'm really happy with it. That I think coming into winter cats get really cuddly, and she had great progress last winter. And so we're already kind of starting out right now from the best point that she has been at. So I think it's really exciting that we may have some very, very good progress in the next few months. So I think that is it for me. I hope you have a great reading weekend and week coming up. And thank you so much for watching. This is a very shocking turn of events. So I think this red blanket got some catnip on it. So Gumbo has been sneaking to lay on it at night the past few days. I took the couch cover off to wash it and left the blanket, and she seems even more happy to be nicely wedged between the couch arm and these pillows. And shocker of all shockers, she let me sit on the couch with her. So I don't even know what's going on. She seems perfectly calm. It's my comfy girl. You gonna let me touch you? Is that okay? Hi, bud. What a good girl. Gumbo, is it very confusing that your body likes how that feels, but you weren't so sure about it? My poor little girl. Yeah, it feels good to your body, huh? Nope.